What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made.
Let's do it.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. Today, I've got a buddy on the show. His name is Keith Nowak. He is the CEO and co-founder of a brand that I love and have loved for, I think, as long as they've been around, for years. 10,000. 10,000 is a men's fitness apparel brand. Their philosophy is basically, let's not make a bunch of shitty gear. Let's make a few things that are fucking awesome. And I'm here to tell you, as a massive user of the brand and mega fan, and also part of the captain team of 10,000, they have done exactly that. Keith, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Really appreciate the opportunity to chat, and honestly couldn't have said it better myself. That's the essence of 10,000. So thank you, brother. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man. So, the idea of Born or Made is really to discuss the nature nurture question. There are far less entrepreneurs than there are regular people in the world. There are far less accelerated athletes than there are people that just play sports. I think that I believe that nature has something to do with people that rise to the top, people like you and people that inspire me and others. So what I do is I've had a really fun time so far in this podcast, being able to get people like you on the show to talk about that question, whether you think you were born with an innate ability or inherent ability to get out there and drive and push like you have. Or if it was something that was made over time through potentially adversity, grind, hustle.
Yeah, man. I think about this topic quite a bit, actually. So I'm excited to dig in and chat on it, because I feel like I have no special sauce whatsoever. Like, I feel like I'm just a dude. But yeah, I mean, when I take a step back, though, we built some great stuff at 10,000, and that doesn't just happen, right? So I've been, thinking a lot about, where this has all come from, my abilities to get here and beyond. So it's a topic I'm pretty into. So I'm excited to dig into it, man.
Well, I also want to mention that you're an athlete as well, right? And
less so these days, unfortunately, but yes.
Yeah, but you're an endurance athlete, and I think that having that as there's also something unique about endurance athletes. Running or biking or swimming long distances doesn't happen without lots and lots and lots and lots of practice. It doesn't happen successfully without lots and lots and lots and lots of practice.
Yes.
I believe that being a successful entrepreneur or a successful athlete or a successful pretty much anything takes a level of obsession,
no doubt,
one has to have, right?
100%.
And I love the tagline at 10,000. I've sort of stolen it and used it in my life.
Yeah.
Better than yesterday. I
totally.
don't think that you can say it better than that, right? Like, so why don't you dive into your story with us?
Sure.
I like to get to the answer of this question potentially by starting with your story, and then we can break off into a few other.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, absolutely, man. So I'll try to be brief so we can keep the time for the meat of the conversation, but I do think the context is interesting. So grew up in New Jersey, played soccer basically since I can remember. That's like literally all I did growing up. I just had this, I don't know, innate desire to just play soccer, be an athlete. I mean, from literally as far as I can remember, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. Like that's all I wanted to do. And I was decent, like I was good enough to be in the mix, but I worked my ass off. Like I trained, and going back to when I'm like 6th, 7th, 8th grade, high school. Like remember, this might be sound a little insane, but I'll give you an example. Like remember one New Year's Eve, right? I didn't go out with my buddies. I didn't go do anything. I was in high school. My parents went out. My sister went out with their did things, right? I went to the local school, at midnight, and I'm sitting there in the spotlight, kicking this ball off the wall, right? Just like juggling this ball in the middle of this parking lot. Like that's what I wanted to do. That's like gave me everything, right? And I just spent my entire existence obsessed with that one endeavor, And so after high school, I had a chance to go to Italy and play third division for a team in Italy, in third division there. And I was like, this is the culmination of my life, man. I made it. This is going to be me a professional footballer in Europe. This is going to be amazing. Went there, and it was truly, I was 18 years old getting paid to play a sport, and it was the coolest thing in my entire life, of course. My friends say my life sort of peaked at 18. It's been downhill since. There's some truth in that, but point
Come
is,
on, man.
no, I mean, they're in that mode, right? But yeah, so it was the culmination of it all, right? But I lasted a year and realized, like, hell, I'm not going to be anywhere near good enough to make it out of this, this tier of football, and it's going to be like a long haul, long grind. So my whole sort of like, world came crashing down, right? It's like everything I'd been doing my whole life was leading to that moment, and I really had to, the realization was like, you're not good enough, right? You're just no matter how much you played, how much you practiced, how much you sacrificed, all things you didn't do so you could train or be well rested, right? Whatever. It wasn't enough.
Let's
right?
stop there for a second. I think this is
Yeah.
this is such an important topic to talk about. This is such a relevant topic to talk about. Mental health is like something that people are starting to talk way more about, and
Yeah,
specifically now coming out of this crazy pandemic, right?
Yeah, man,
So
for sure.
can you remember when that thought became real in your mind?
Yeah, distinctly. So, end of the first season there, I was talking to the team. I was like, all right, I want to stick around. And they're like, yeah, for sure. Like, and everyone was like, I had a chance to go do a trial with a team in the division above us in the second tier, right? Instead of third tier. I was like, well, this is where I got to be. Like, I'm going to go, right? And that was a disaster, like an utter disaster. And they were just like upfront, like, yeah, it's not going to work. And we were driving back to the little house I was living in and being like, I don't know how to sort of process the fact that this is not going to proceed, like this is not going to continue. And so went back, was had to make the decision, come back and go to college. It was all kind of like a whirlwind, and it was kind of like this, right? But got back to school, we went to college, went to Boston University, and I did nothing. Like I didn't play soccer anymore. I didn't train anymore. I was a year older than everybody else. I kind of had this like different life experience. I wasn't really kind of like clicking with like my, roommates, colleagues, whatever.
Can I ask you one question before you
Yeah.
continue? So at this point, you had essentially the wind had been taken out of your sails because of that experience. Do you think that you mentally had thrown in the towel at that point, and you started?
Well, that's what I was getting to, right? Like I don't think I had really processed it. Like I knew like the journey was over, but I was like, it was. I mean, you've been doing stuff, like Muay Thai and running. Like it's been part of your life for so long that it just feels like second nature, right? And so it didn't really hit me that soccer was no longer a part of my life until I was like at college and not doing it and having nothing to replace that, right? I remember, freshman year being like super depressed, being like, what am I supposed to do now? Like, how do I exist in this world? What do I focus on? What do I do? Who do I hang out with? And it was this really sort of like moment of self-reflection that I had to go through, because everything I identified as was gone, right? And it was really kind of like a rebirth in some way. I was like, this that had to be jettisoned and let go of. And it wasn't, I mean, I'm not saying it was easy. Like, it just took time and it was painful. And yeah, it was, that feeling of sort of restarting is kind of a pattern throughout my sort of background. I'll kind of tell more about that, but it was the first time I had to kind of really address that feeling, but by no means the last.
Did you, so it's when that happened, it's sort of because the reason why I'm trying to dig into this a little bit is because I believe we as human beings have a tendency to really put attention on negative self-talk.
Of course.
And
yeah, I agree.
Far more attention goes towards negative self-talk than positive thinking.
100%.
And I think that this is a good opportunity to sort of just peel that back a little bit and understand why we as human beings are able to appreciate negative self-talk more than we can all the awesome shit that.
Good question.
It's
a really good question. My first thought, I haven't really thought about it in that way, but it's a really interesting question, right? Like, if I apply it to that experience or to my general experience, maybe my take would be good is never good enough to some degree, right? Like, for me, it was always like, okay, got this level, got this thing, achieved this thing, but it was always on to the next, right? It was always like looking forward to the next thing. So you never really like bask in that moment.
You're like, what though? I just want to stop you. I guarantee this. And this is something that I think anybody listening to this podcast should actually fucking take a note on or really, really think about. I guarantee that you did not celebrate you playing fucking professional soccer, right? Like,
celebrate? No, I didn't think about it.
That's what I'm saying. That's the craziest thing of all, right? Like, you've worked your whole childhood.
Totally.
And then you get sent overseas to get paid to play the sport that you are madly in love with. And you probably did not celebrate for a fucking hour.
I don't remember a moment being like, made it. Never, not even a moment of being like, yes, I did it. It was just like, next thing. All right, got to get ready for this. Got to think about that, right? And I think that's why the positives get lost, but the negatives are heightened, because the negative is this stop the trains moment, right? Where it becomes like very visceral how bad you are at a thing, right? And you have to reflect on it. Where the positive, at least for me, and I'm sure similar for you and most people, it just like check the box and move on, right? Because you're always looking to the next thing. It's not a good way to be, like, right, good by any means, but I do think it's actually a feature, or everybody I talk to who's been successful has that same response, right? Like, whatever it may be, they're just like, yeah, move on to the next thing and set my next sites, right? But it's a really interesting point, man. It's a really, really interesting way to think about it.
Well, I will say this. So I have, my experience is actually interesting. One thing I will say is I too never really celebrated the wins until recently, when I started really thinking about this idea that life is long, life is not short.
Completely agree.
It is long, and if you want it to feel good, we have to start celebrating the wins as successful people. And not only for us, but for our team, for our family, and for the people that are going to look at us as leaders in these specific industries that we're in, right? Like,
I couldn't have said it better, man. I agree.
I think celebrating the wins is such an important thing to do. And some entrepreneurs or some super successful people will say differently. I believe that celebrating the wins is such an important thing. And one other thing that I would say that I think is also very important is so I spent years as a teenager and early 20s really walking a bad path, right? Like, and I experienced bouts with addiction in drugs and alcohol that affected my mental health for sure, even to this day. But I will say something that I remember as a young kid when I knew that I was a sort of an addict, like early on in my life. Like, once I started, I was like, I'm in this, I'm, and for years it was perfect for me. Like, it worked. Like, I needed an outlet, and it fit the bill. But I remember when I was like, probably like 17 or 18, And I was sitting there and I was miserable,
Mm-hmm.
terribly depressed, just miserable. And I remember saying to somebody, you know, the interesting thing about being a drug addict is that we tend to forget the pain. We tend to forget
Really
the
interesting.
pain because if you were able to actually remember how bad
Totally.
I felt right now, I would not do it again.
Of course.
Right? But
Right.
the interesting thing in like life is all we focus on is the pain,
Yeah,
and
totally.
and have a hard time focusing on the positive. And as a drug addict, all you focus on is like the getting high part. You don't think about the other shit.
Yes,
So it's just so interesting that I've lived on both sides of the coin. Anyway, back to your stuff. There's a quote that I read, and I don't know if this was coming from you, but I do think that it was from you, because I was doing some research before our show, and there was something that I think came out of your mouth. To reach the success we've always dreamed of, we must become obsessed with with understanding failure. I don't know if you said that or not, but
I'm obsessed with failure. I have always been. So I could have, that might have been something that I put out there. I mean, one quick anecdote that's relevant. So I used to keep a journal when I was playing soccer of every practice, of every game. And I'd go home afterwards and I'd write down exactly what happened. And to your point, it was all the negatives, right? It was all the places I fucked up, like missed pass, missed touch, bad decision. It was just pages and pages and pages of the negative, right? The failure. And, you know, honestly, like at the moment, it was just my gut reaction. But I think it did me like good in some sense, because I became very comfortable with failing. I became very comfortable with like, you're gonna fuck up all the time. And I guess like this is the evidence of it, right? A page I still have in my fucking attic. But yeah, man, I think about that kind of stuff a lot. Like, how do you? Yeah. Anyway, go
how do you what?
I was like, how do you grow if you don't look at like those stepping stones, those failure points, right? I mean, I think your point on like looking at the positives is really important. It's an interesting take. I hadn't really thought about that. But at the same time, if you just obsess on the positives and you don't learn from the negatives, right? If you're just like, I'm crushing it, like I'm always so good, I'm all I am is great, right? There's no desire to go beyond. There's no view that there is a beyond, because it's like all I do is good stuff. It's just fantastic, you know. So it's a tough line to walk, and you know, this is a bit of a tangent, but like I had a baby, you know, as you know, about a year ago, and these self-reflections have been much more important to me these days, because I look at having a kid as almost like the ultimate test of who I've become as a person, right? Like my whole life I've been like obsessed with improvement and optimization and learning from failures. And like now is the time where it actually matters, right? Like from when I was like just a single dude, like who's a fuck? If I failed, like no one's really gonna care about me, right? But like this moment now with a kid is like I've got to hopefully like influence her with all the good stuff I've learned over the years, right? And so all those things you're talking about, right? Like bop around my head all the time these days, because I feel like now is the moment where it matters the most. Or you know, you can't fail this one. This one you can't fail at, right? Like you got no second shot with it. You got to make sure this kid is awesome or not a fuck up or whatever it is. And so yeah, man, you're bringing up a lot of thoughts.
Well, you know, I mean, I'll tell you, right? Like I'm a father as well, and I've got these two awesome dudes that I love more than anything on the planet. But I will tell you that we can only do our best. Right? We can only do our best, and hopefully your best is going to leave an awesome impact.
So your point, right? Born or made, you know, it's like how much do we really have influence, you know, and how much is just innate in them. And yeah, it's a complicated question. It's a really
I'll tell you
question.
this, you know, because I have two kids, it's an interesting dichotomy to witness.
I'm sure.
They're two kids that are brought up by the same parents. We do the same thing.
Sure, of course.
They spend the exact same amount of time with us. They go to bed at the same time. They eat the same food. Right. They have the same mom and dad. They go to the same school. Yeah. They're fucking totally different.
It's so fascinating.
It's just like so my younger son, Dakota, is an absolute character beyond character. He is constantly the jokester. He's 3. We went out for dinner the other night. We're out for dinner the other night. He's also like, both of the boys are handsome, but Dakota happens to be like he's like a model kid, right?
Wow.
And so we're sitting at this restaurant in our town, and I look at Dakota, I'm talking to Finn, and then I turn over and I look at my other son, Dakota, who's sitting in a high chair right next to me, and he's going like this. And he's not looking at me. And I turn around and he's flirting with like a 6-year-old girl right behind me. Like full blown going like this.
Good for him.
And I'm like, wait a sec. I have no idea where he learned that.
Right?
No idea. But he'll get up. I mean, he's so like, and then Finley is also like, he's a sweetheart of a kid, but he's a little bit more reserved. Like, you know, it's just so weird to see,
fascinating, man.
You know, and some people also, by the way, are like incapable of being parents, you know, and that is interesting to see as well. You know, like there are some people that are just, you know, incapable of expressing love in the way that parents should express love. So
no, that's a whole nother chat we can have, I think, at some point is parenting these days. But
I want to just mention that I do believe, without a question of a doubt, that paying attention to your failures is 100% necessary on the path to greatness, right?
I completely agree.
There's no way around not failing and not fucking up. And the way you don't succeed is by brushing it under the rug, right? However, I think about it as, because I come from a fight background, right? I think about it as a fighter in the ring, right? If I'm in the ring, and you'll see this with fighters, right? There's defensive fighters and there's offensive fighters.
Of course, totally.
For me, I've always been told, like, hold my fucking ground, specifically because I'm a small guy, right? So like, I know for a fact that if I don't take control of the center of the ring and hold my ground and don't step back, I'm kind of screwed.
You get pushed around.
I'm not only but I'm small. I've got to stay close to the person. I've got to they've got to feel this, not this. They've got to feel that with me.
I get it.
Because I'm small and I'm always trying to get close. And if I think about that in life, right? Like, it's a lot harder to knock me down if I am on my toes in an offensive position.
That's a really good point.
If I'm on my flats of my feet, or even worse, on my heels, because I'm nervous about getting hit, and like, I don't want to get hit, and that's my mentality. It's like, wait, no, I'm going to go in, and this guy's super fucking creative, and I just don't want to get hit. It's so hard to win by just trying to not lose.
Yes, dude, that phrase is something that I've thought about a lot, but I'll tell you that story in a second, but I completely agree with you. It's a really interesting analogy, by the way, and I think it's really pertinent. And maybe it's a matter of like timing or sequencing, right? Because I think in the moment, what you're saying is you can't think about your failures or the negatives in that moment, because if you are, you're gonna get smacked around, right? All you're obsessed with is the fear, and they're gonna come after you. But I think it's like when you're in it, when you're in that moment, when you're in the meeting, in the fight, in the whatever, you've got to be positive and roll with failure and brush things off and kind of get after it. But you got to carve out time for that reflection, right?
You got to watch the tape. You got to watch the tape.
Yes, well said, right? You need that debrief moment where you're like, all right, what went well, what didn't go well, how do I learn next time? I think that's what a lot of people don't do, right? They'll just like move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing, move on to the next thing. They don't learn from that reflection. And so maybe that's a way to sort of toe that line or
I think that the what we're getting at here is, you can use failure as an asset, or you can allow failure to sink the fucking ship.
Totally. Well said. 100%.
Right.
You gotta make a choice, right?
And that's it. So either you say, you know, holy shit, we're failing, run for the hills, retreat, this is not going to work, or holy shit, guys, we're failing, let's huddle up, let's look at what we've got left, and let's put all of our energy in towards fucking going heavy on that. You
know, Jocko Willink, obviously, right? His podcasts and his books and stuff. He has an amazing video. He talks about when he was, you know, leading task unit bruiser, you know, guys would come to him with like a problem, right? And they're like, hey, Jocko, we didn't get that, you know, the new gear. And his answer would always be like, good. Like, we can now find some, you know, get better at the current gear we've got. Or like, Jocko, we didn't get, you know, that mission improved. Good. We can train harder and train for the next one or whatever, right? And it was always that responding to the negative moment with that opportunistic view, right? And I think that's what you're saying. It's like, you can look at that failure and just be like, oh, fuck, it's over. I'm going to get crushed, right? Or have that mental attitude of saying, all right, well, I'm going to learn from that. I'm going to grow from that. I'm going to take advantage of this moment in time, no matter what it gives me, and move forward and win. And to your point, life is long. You don't need to win today. You got to win over the long haul, right? And that's something I think about a lot these days. People ask me, you know, like, my advice, like, how do you start a company, this, that, other. One thing I've learned along the way is you got to be patient. Patience is the most important virtue I've learned over my years here, because I always think like, you got to win this one, or you don't win this one, it's all over, right? Or if you fail this time, it's it. But it's not that, man. It's a culmination of all these things, and you got to have that patience and that long view to know that I have the time to learn from my failures and grow, because there's going to be a next time. There's gonna be another opportunity. I got to be ready for that one, because I can't fuck that one up again, right? And if you just think about the one and done, you don't think about the future or the long haul or the patience view, I think you get really, well, you know, you can't really grow, but also get really depressed, I think, because all you're focused on is that, you know, moment in time. So I think there's so many cool things, you know, going on in this intersection that, you know, is the essence, frankly, I think, of grit and grinding through it all, you know?
You know, I love that you brought up patience. I couldn't agree more with you. I think patience is a skill set that is really difficult to
for sure, man,
master, or even come close to mastering. The funny thing about patience is that it comes with time.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, like that is
the
most, like, that is, for me, it's just like, oh, wait a second. So patience is everything. And, you know, here's something that I'll bring. And I, you know what, dude, the truth is that I think I love this dialogue. I think that this is the stuff that really, you know, people want to hear, right? We're talking about super relevant shit to the world of business and the world of better living is what you and I are trying to do. But, you know, there's a huge difference between patience and waiting, right? You wait online at the fucking DMV.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It is useless, useless time.
Yes.
Patience is the ability to be proactive in a time of acceptance for not getting exactly what you want at that very moment.
I love that. But it's about not just waiting. It's about trying multiple things in that period of time, right? It's not sitting there being like, well, I'm just going to wait until success comes. I'm going to be really patient. It's going to come at me, right?
Proactivity, man.
Dude, it's going, but it's having that view that if this doesn't work, then I'll try this, then I'll try this, then I'll try this. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to lose my shit about it. I'm going to stay focused and disciplined and just keep going down the line. Boom, 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 boom. I love to say my wife now, you know, she's with the kid and all the other things going on. Life's kind of crazy these days. I talk about process and effort a lot, right? And like, that's all we can really control is process and effort. How we approach things and the amount of effort we put into things. And I think it dovetails with patience, right? Because it's like, you can maybe go all in on one thing, but it's going to fail. So do that same thing, put the same process, the same effort into the next thing, and repeat, rinse and repeat, right? And that's really what it comes down to. Like, there's nothing much more complicated about being successful in life than just that, basically, right? The resilience and the patience to just go again.
10,000.
Fuck yeah. That's what it's about, man, right? Like, that's the brand name, that's the mantra. You know, 10,000 hours is that manifestation of that effort to get there and be the best. That's what the brand's all about, really, is like, look, we're a fitness company for sure. We make activewear and training gear, but fitness for us is a lens to all these conversations we're having right now. It's a lens to the broader journey of being a better person every day, right? Because look, I mean, we all been that workout where like you come out of that workout that's hard and you're like, I can crush today, right? I can go and just dominate because I've done something hard this morning. And that's that feeling we want to embody. And that's the feeling I think everyone wants to embody in their daily lives is like, I've gone and done a bunch of hard things, so I can do more hard things, you know? And then those hard things eventually culminate in success, happiness, you know, whatever that, how you define that, right?
What is happiness at this stage in your life for you?
It's a great question, man. It's a great question. I like to say that I'm always happy, never satisfied. It's something like I kind of bandy about once in a while, but something I think happiness is a choice. First of all, I think you can be happy in the shit. I think like, and again, this is a lesson I've learned over the years, like going back to, you know, Italy or early entrepreneurship. But, you know, after college, I started a bunch of companies that were just flatliners or failures. Like it's been a long journey to get here. And I've, you know, been depressed at many points in that, on that
Which
ride.
I want to, after this, let's go back there because I think it's important.
Okay. Yeah. And so I just thought that like, you know, eventually came to a conclusion that you got to choose to be happy because there's just, you know, too much in goodness in life, you know, to not focus, you know, to miss. And so what makes me happy right now, dude, I mean, it's going to sound super cheesy. I'm sure you're going to expect it, but just like smiling with, you know, my daughter smiling at me, right. Is just like, man, it's just crazy feeling. Right. And everything washes away. All the bullshit goes away. And you're like, all right, man, this is good. We had this little wagon my dad made for me when I was a kid. I must be like 2 or 3. It's like little, it's actually a big fucking oak wood wagon. Where we every night we take her out on the property and like we drag her around, you know, and she couldn't be happier. She's squeaks the whole time. She's just happy. And that moment in the day is my happiest point right now, you know, just dragging her around this heavy ass oak wagon and she's just smiling and squeaking and just, it's awesome. It's a really good moment in the day.
I love that.
Anyway.
No, dude, yeah, man. If anybody can relate to that, you know, we just got a puppy. My kids, like, we just got a puppy. I took the pup, you know, I got the puppy down in Brooklyn. I took the puppy home on Sunday last week.
Yeah.
He's an incredible dog. And then on Monday morning, my 2 sons, this dog is amazing, but my 2 sons and I take a walk around our property and then we sometimes veer off and we go to this really big lake and sometimes we see turtles and
that's awesome.
Beautiful birds. And so we do it every morning at like right before they go to school at like 7:30.
It's amazing. What a great morning.
It's a great morning. And now we've added Bowie to the mix. And so my older son Finn walked Bowie all the way to the pond, and I got a video of it because I just could not contain the level of awesome happiness I had from watching that, you know.
It's amazing.
And it's just like, that's it, like that. And when you really strip it all back, it's so interesting that those moments are the moments where you know, I was running, I haven't been doing a lot of running these days, but I took a run the other day for the first time in a while because I had a little back thing, and I was running. And some of my greatest moments in my life have been on runs, and not like crazy long runs. Just I remember very clearly, you know, 14 years ago, running across the Williamsburg Bridge and looking up at the red, you know, like the red bridge, like the red, you know, the I-beams as I was running.
Yeah.
And there was just this moment where I just couldn't believe how happy I was at that time. And and it was super early in the morning and I was kind of alone and I like spread my arms and I was just
That's awesome, dude.
Yes. And I remember it so clearly because it was a standout moment in my life where I was like, wow. And you know what? The other day I was running and I had the exact same feeling. And I was just like, whoa, like I was so grateful to be in my body, doing what I'm doing, even though, you know. So
running makes you feel alive. Running makes you feel alive in a way I think other training doesn't match with, you know, necessarily. I'll actually good segue into the sort of continuation of the story, actually, because running has played a massive part in my life sort of since, you know, we left off with the Italy experience. Basically, came back, went to college, didn't do anything for 4 years. Like, I mean, I studied, of course, and did college and shit, studied philosophy. So I was like, I got no preparation for the real world. And the plan was to go to law school, follow my dad's footsteps, easy, right? But I had no interest in doing that whatsoever. And again, this is back to your question, like born or made. I've always had this like innate interest in building companies. Like being an entrepreneur was always just like really just, I don't know, I wouldn't say like cool thing. It was like a need. It was like a this beacon like pulling me in that direction. I can't explain like, how I think about it. It goes back a little bit maybe to my dad. If I think about it hard, he's a patent lawyer, patents and trademarks, and worked with really interesting companies over the years. And he always told me when I was a kid, like, if you really want to make it, like you want to be successful, you got to build your own thing. You got to start your own company. That's how you're really going to make it. Maybe that's always been in my head, but point being, I've always just wanted to build something. And so coming out of school, I had an idea for a digital marketing company. I didn't know what digital marketing was. I didn't know what entrepreneurship. I didn't know anything about anything, right? But I was like, I think this is a cool idea. I want to give it a go. And so backed out of law school application, acceptances. I was like, I'm not going to go to school. And I launched my first company. And the first one was, I'd say, a flatliner. It was okay. I mean, we got acquired by this company, more like an acqui-hire kind of thing. Like, hey, come join us. And that company got acquired by Google. So that's kind of cool. But like, I didn't make any money. I wasn't like successful as you would define it, right? As the running part actually comes in, going through that journey, I got really depressed because I was like, oh, I'm just supposed to start a company and then you become successful. Like that's how it works, right? Like that's the step, right? You just start it and it works. And I got really depressed. And the company it was hard, right? I wasn't getting paid anything. So, I moved back to my parents' place. I sold my car. I took a part-time job delivering pizza for a while in the middle of it all. Like I was just like hanging on for dear life, which is a point I'll go back to what you made earlier. But my dad's like, you gotta get back into like training. You gotta go running. You gotta like get endorphins going again to not be like a depressed shit sitting here just miserable. It's like running. No, man, like running is to train for a sport. I don't go just run, right? I was like, all right, fine, I'll give it a go. Went out and did like, typical story, right? A mile, and then okay, 2 miles, and then 3, and then 5. And then I was like, this is awesome. Like the way I feel after this is incredible. And so I did my first half marathon. I was like, well, how far can I push it? That became marathons, did a bunch of those. I was like, well, Ironman sounds harder. Let's try one of those. And so, for 10, 12 years, just basically spent a ton of time, training for marathons and Ironman races, and really fell in love with the endurance sports side of things. And to your point, I think being an endurance athlete is a different sort of like switch you got to flip as an athlete. You got to be really comfortable alone. You got to be really comfortable like, long hours that, comfortable not in the spotlight. Nothing's cool about doing, middle of the pack marathons or Ironman races. No one cares about you. It's not very Instagram friendly. Just like you're out there by yourself, But that was a really, like, I think transformative part of my life too. Just kind of learning those lessons, running, biking, letting your mind wander, having those moments. And so for me, 10,000 really is that intersection of that personal experience and passion of fitness and athletics over the course of a life, and professional, experience, which was basically launching a bunch of companies after college. For a while, I was in venture capital. I worked for a family office doing their seed and Series A investing. We invested in Everlane and Warby Parker and cool businesses like that. So when I launched 10,000, there's really this kind of intersection of who I am as a person and what I got pretty good at professionally. So it's, I say sometimes it sounds a little cheesy, but like, I think 10,000 for me is like why I'm here, kind of, not to sound super over the top of it, but like, I think it's that final, puzzle piece that came together from all these different experiences. Before I stop rambling, I want to go back to one thing you said earlier about, if you're focused on failure, you're not winning, you're not growing, you're just trying not to die, right? That was a lesson I learned in my first company. It was tough, right? I mean, I was 22 trying to figure out how to fucking build a business, but I was so afraid of failing that all we did was just try not to die. There was no innovation, there was no progress, man. There was no growth. It was just like I was on my heels, right? I was that guy on my heels trying to be like, just don't hit me. If please don't hit me. And in the end, I got hit really fucking hard, in anyway. And so the takeaway from that for me was like, kind of what you said, like you gotta be on the front foot and you gotta go for it because you're gonna get hit anyway, so might as well kind of be bracing for it. So that was a lot, I kind of touched on a few different things, but
dude,
I wanted to kind of jam in some stuff there.
That was, I mean, that's incredible. That is what this is, right? Like people don't listen in necessarily to hear me blabber. It's about bringing on awesome guests that really have inspired me, man. Like I've been talking with you guys at 10,000 for years. I think, probably, I think we probably started talking in 2016, 17, something like that.
Right at the beginning. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And, I've watched what you have done. And I've watched the brand that you've created go from a very small, like boutique brand that I found for the first time at an Equinox on like, there was a couple of, and I don't even know, I think I might've DM'd you guys or something like that on Instagram. But I to connecting with you and working with you in and out, and then like seeing 10,000 on dudes across the country everywhere I go, and seeing that X that I know so well on the back of my there it is. Seeing it everywhere, and just knowing that the guys behind it are awesome dudes that work their fucking asses off.
It means a lot.
I mean, I remember, our first meeting in a small little, I think it was potentially a WeWork. And then our second meeting was in another office that was like 6 of you. And then another meeting was in another office. You were like out, you were growing. And I was just like, this is witnessing it is so cool.
Thank you, man. I mean, it means a lot, really means a lot coming from you. You've seen a lot, you've done a lot, a lot of interesting people. The fact that you think we're cool is really inspiring to me, honestly, because it's sometimes hard, right? Like you get in your little hole and you just like go, right? It's like the next step, the next challenge, the next fire is all you think about. But it's really kind of cool for me now. The company's growing and I'm not so day to day anymore. Like I can kind of step back and have chats like this and seeing the bigger picture, honestly, for the first time kind of ever, is, I mean, I don't know how, it all came together really. If I was to map it out, it'd be like this disaster of a graph. It was not a clean line by any means. And it's just, it's been hard. It's been tough, but man, it's really kind of cool to see like a person in the world. I still get giddy when some dude who I don't know wears our gear, right? It's because I still think like only people I know really give a shit. Only people I actually, I had one thing we do is I try to reach out to like 10 or 15 like customers or interesting, top customers or interesting customers a month and ask for phone calls or Zoom calls these days, right? Just to stay connected, to learn, to talk to folks. I think it's actually a big pillar of our business is our repeat customer base. Like, not to get nerdy, but like every month, over half of our revenue and orders are repeat customers. So like we have this really amazing little engine of just loyal, diehard customers. It almost becomes like a subscription business right now for like a recurring revenue business, because it's really interesting how that's happened. By the way, nurturing that's very important to us. And so I have these calls with these guys, and I had this call with this dude this morning, like super successful guy, like really, 50 years old, like fit as hell. And he's like, man, you guys do is just like awesome. Like no one does what you guys are doing. The products are incredible. I love the story. It's good to connect. He like was like fanboying with me a little bit. And I was like, this is weird, dude. Like I'm no one of interest. But having those connections, really is inspiring and, keeps the fire for sure. Keeps the fire going. Absolutely.
I love that you say that. As you're talking to me, I had a really long conversation with my team. I have long conversations with my, I'm launching a new business, right? And so, I'm launching a business not in your direct space. I'm not launching a fitness apparel brand, but I'm launching a direct to consumer packaged goods company.
Right.
And
which I'm psyched about, by the way. I can't wait to see it all, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I should get a convo with you offline just to talk to you more about it. But it's coming close, and I put together this pretty epic team, super lean and mean.
Awesome.
But my CMO was former CMO of RX Bar.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and so we're talking the other day, and we're talking about customer support and trying to figure out how we're going to manage the inflow of customer support, and whether our co-packers our fulfillment center, are they going to take on some of the some of that, are we going to hire an outsourced third party to do it, are we going to do it? And my CMO says, the founder of RX answered had his cell phone number on the bar.
It's amazing.
And I said, and it reminded me that in the beginning of the Meatball Shop and Seymour's, the info at Meatball Shop or info at Seymour's emails came right into my email. So yeah, I spent the majority of my time while I was in the restaurant and out of the restaurant responding to people personally. And I think that piece is like when you buy when you buy a piece of clothing from Paragon, excuse me, not Paragon, Patagonia, and you bring it back to Patagonia because the zipper malfunctioned. They all look at you with a smile and say, go pick out whatever you want.
Totally.
And
you're a lifetime Patagonia customer because of that.
Lifetime.
I
bought one jacket, one pair of pants, and anytime, and I've had Patagonia stuff for, I don't know, God knows, years.
Right.
25 years, maybe. Anytime I go in there with any problem ever, could be anything, they look at me, they smile, they take it, and they say, go grab whatever you want.
It's incredible.
And I'm like, and that's that thing. That's the distinguishing element of what, good and great companies have to offer.
Completely agree, man.
I love that you connect with your top customers. I think
we did, my co-founder and I did this thing where it was just two of us at the beginning. We personally emailed with the first 1,000 customers, like not like, hey, customer service came in and we answered them. Like we sent a personal email to every single person after their purchase. Be like, hey, what do you think? What do you like? What don't you like? Talk to me. Tell me what's going on. And we were doing that because we were idiots. Like we didn't know anything about launching an apparel company, right? We needed to learn fast. But that's become part of the DNA of the business and part of what I love doing. And not just part of the DNA, but like I think to your point about Patagonia, like something that we think is a major differentiator and competitive advantage is because we are, like a lot of brands say, oh, we're DTC, so we're close to our customers. They don't really give a shit. They just say they're close to their customers because they don't have retail middlemen. They don't actually like truly engage on a deep level. We've tried to like just be as obsessive and as close as we possibly can to our customers because we want to make the best possible gear and the best possible experience for them, right? Like, and in that process, I've come to really love it. It's incredible to talk to people, who spend their hard-earned money on your stuff, right? Like, if you think about that for a second, when you were in the restaurant business, sure you said that all the time. Like, they can go anywhere, right? Like, they can go spend money anywhere and do anything. But they made a conscious choice to come into your restaurant or to our site, and just to have that chat with someone is, I think, the coolest part about being in this kind of business, honestly. And it gives me such energy, and beyond just like the tactical takeaways, it's just like a shitload of fun.
The connectivity to the customer in the restaurant industry, we say guest, is where the magic happens. It's that moment where the owner of the restaurant walks over to the table and says thank you. It's that moment where the guests are walking out of the restaurant and every single person that's working in the restaurant does their best to make eye contact and say thank you for being here. It's those little things. And then of course, in your business, you know, when somebody buys something from you, to get a note that's not annoying, trying to resell necessarily, but a note that says thank you. That's incredible.
Right. Yeah.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. What was that? Say it again.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying, you know, we've got about 10 minutes left. And I think that this has been such an awesome conversation. I want to ask you, what is it? And we kind of touched on this. I kind of feel like I know where you stand in the Born or Made arena, but if you could point at something, what is it that drives you?
It's a great question, man. I think there's a couple things that if I was to really sort of pinpoint it down to something, I think, you know, this is getting real raw and direct. Maybe it's too much, but I think there's a level of narcissism in all of us that a lot of us ignore or are afraid of. We all believe we're better than who we were yesterday, right? Or who we believe we can be this better version of ourselves. I've leaned into that like incredibly thoroughly. I'm not saying I'm a narcissist where I like, like in definition, but like this belief in myself that I can kind of do anything has been a driver or a component of my being, right? By no means have I actualized that yet, right? Actually the opposite. But this belief that I can and I should have the tools to go do something great, it's just at my core. And I don't know why or how that got there, but it is. And so it's part of it's like I just need to go prove that to myself that I can do that. I can be that guy, right? Because like I think I can, and I believe I've been preparing to do that. So part of the motivator is like I need to check that box that I can do it, right? The other big piece for me is, so that's like I probably would say honestly is like the through line to kind of all the things I've tried in my life is like I want to go do hard things to prove to myself I can be better than I have been, right? Whether that's going to a new experience in Italy, whether that's trying to push myself into marathons and Ironmans, like just pushing that bar or starting companies. Like I've always kind of just jumped into the hardest thing I can think of, partly because I want to prove to myself that I can do it, right? That's like a broad motivator. But I'd say today, in terms of 10,000 specifically, one major driver is our team, the team we built at 10,000, like I'm sure like your guys is like just an amazing group of folks, and they're all in, like they're 100% committed to the future of the business. And I want to win for them now too, right? I want to make this not just like a job they had and a paycheck they collected, but like a thing that they helped create and and make real. And like I want to be successful, so we have, they can go on and do other cool shit in their lives and whatever else it may be. But that like desire for like joint success, like if you think about like team sports, as you probably played growing up, it's like you want to win for your buddy too, right? You want to win for the dude next to you. And so part of the tactical day-to-day motivator for me is like, let's go do some cool shit together, guys. If that makes sense.
A few more questions. Fear is, for lots of people, a very real thing. For whatever reason, and well, let me not project. I am not afraid to do hard things.
Yeah.
And totally. It's not that I don't appreciate them being challenging and difficult, but when it comes to opening a business, I am not afraid of it. I'm not, totally. I don't walk in thinking, oh my God, this is, I'm just like, my body language, I tend to do this a lot in my body language. And I think that this just means that like, I'm going for it at all times.
Yeah, man.
And so how do you process fear today when it comes up? Because I'm sure as an entrepreneur and a CEO of a company that's actually crushing it, how do you process fear today? And is it different than how you processed fear yesterday?
Yeah. The short answer is yes. And this is, again, going back to the born or made question or nature nurture question, right? It's like, I don't think of myself as an extrovert. I don't think of myself as a like charismatic, like, I'm going to talk to people and be in the mix kind of person by any means. But I've gotten really good at that. Like, not just toot my own horn or whatever, but like I can have investor conversations and, team rallying conversations and but my point is to your fear question is those kind of interactions were always really fear inducing to me, like going back, right? Like I remember, my first couple companies or whatever, like I'd pitch investors and literally be like shaking nervous, like physically nervous, right? And fearful and afraid that I was gonna say something stupid or mumble or make a mistake. I would say, not say now I'm not afraid of those things, but I think I've just, through just doing them over and over and over again and getting better at them and purposefully trying to get better at those things, you lose that fear, that element of fear, right? And you become more comfortable. And so I think, I would say to get over it, just kind of doing the hard thing as many times as possible until you're kind of over it. But I think there's an element innately though that will put you back in that situation the next time, right? Because a lot of people will be like, I'm afraid, I'm nervous, I don't want to do this thing, it sucked, I'm not gonna do it again, right? And so that's like, I think the nurture bit where it's like throwing you back into the fire. Like you're okay, I'm gonna be afraid again, I'm gonna be nervous again, it's gonna suck again, I'm gonna try it, I'm gonna go back and do it, right? And then the nature bit is you get over that by just doing it, I think, over and over and over and over and over again until you're pretty comfortable at it, or fear is no longer the preeminent sort of feeling you have when you think of those things.
Habits are everything.
Mm-hmm.
They will make us or break us. Are there any habits that you can point to that have made you the man you are today?
It's a really good question. And it's actually something I struggle with a lot because I agree with your first part of your sentence that habits are critical to success and who we are. I've always struggled though to develop habits in my day, right? I mean, I have they're not like they're fine, like basic. Like, I mean, I'm at my desk by 7:30 or 8 in the morning every day. That's like a habit, and so I prioritize that over everything else. But like my morning routine is different every day. I never was able to get into habits really like on a daily basis. I have I'm an obsessive note taker and list maker. That's a habit that I bring to everything I do. And I organize myself kind of externally, and that I couldn't live without. Those are boring habits. I mean, I'm not the kind of person that's I'm up at 4, I'm drinking the smoothie, I'm doing this thing, I'm meditating, and then this, that, and the other. I really aspire to be that guy, but it's always been a struggle for me to kind of actualize that. You're that guy, aren't you? You're that morning habit guy.
I mean, I'm like a fucking machine. I'm a habit machine.
I love it, man. I'm so inspired by that. I think it's the coolest thing. It just, maybe I'm lazy and haven't been able to pull it off. But what's your key to it? How do you make that happen? How do you figure out what that's going to be, and then how do you take this step in making it a reality?
I sort of correlate it to, and I kind of bring it back to sports because I'm a big sports guy. So I sort of correlate it to if you are, football, line of scrimmage, quarterback says hut, hut, hike, gets the ball. If you didn't know the game of football, you just see a bunch of dudes running all over the place, smashing into each other, just running chaotically, no order.
Yes.
However, it's quite the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Every single person that is moving has a very, very distinct plan and objective, and they know exactly where they're going and how they're getting there and how many steps to take, how to turn around. They know exactly what is happening. And that is how I think about habits in my life.
Interesting.
I have no control over the weather, what people think. the
Yep.
wind, the
Yep.
train,
Right.
my son having a meltdown. I have zero control over any of that shit.
Right.
95% of life, I've got no control over. However, I do have control over what my morning looks like. And I know that if I win in the morning, my chances of having a much more settling day, meaning like I organize the line of scrimmage in the morning, and I know that like I know exactly where I'm going and I have complete control over it. And that gives me that order and that sort of regimented, discipline gives me an opportunity to manage all the other variables throughout the day.
I love it, man.
And so I just know like that structure for me is integral to my success.
Yeah.
And it was given to me at an early age. Once I decided to change my life, I knew that I needed to stick to a plan that was not of my own understanding, a plan that other people suggested for me. And I did. And that's when everything changed.
Interesting.
Yeah, so
have your habits in the morning changed over the years, or has it been the same?
They have. I mean, there's some, the general structure. I'm getting up earlier and earlier the older I get. I'm getting up earlier, and I'm also going to bed early. So,
same, 100%.
Yeah. Yes. So like that's changed, right? Like I am up at 5 o'clock in the morning every single day. Just, and I don't have an alarm. Like I just do it. But I've added things over time. I've added habits over time that I wouldn't change for the world. And some of those habits are really unique. And some people would find to be like totally
weird,
ridiculous. But they
work for you.
They work. And so I do believe that habits are everything.
Dude, I'm so inspired by that. And again, it's something I've always struggled with and aspired to take on. So I think one takeaway from this chat is I'm gonna give it a go again and try to set myself up for success in the morning in a better way. I think it's important. I really do.
Well, look, man, I'm launching a business called Creatures of Habit. And
that's true.
Habits are everything for me.
That's true.
You are the man. I'm
grateful
that you gave me your time. B, I'm grateful to be, some little tiny piece of the company that you've created. I'm honored and grateful to be a part of.
We're honored as well. Thank you.
And I got to finish with the question that I always ask.
Yeah.
Do you think you were born or made?
If I was to pick one, if I had to put my finger on one side, I'd say made.
Wow, I'm surprised.
I'd come down the made side.
All right. I thought you were going to say born. I love when I'm
interesting.
wrong.
Interesting. I think I was born with some key variables, key ingredients, if you will. But I think the journey's been long, and it's forged who I am today. And so I said I'd have to choose. I mean, it's a tough question, right? It's a tough question, but I'd have to choose that side if I was to push it.
Dude, I love it. Keith, I can't thank you enough, man.
Thank you, man. This has been so much fun, and again, total honor to have you on the team and be partners with you in this journey we're on. And really, just thank you for thinking of me for this. So I had a shit ton of fun and a lot of cool stuff uncovered there. So thank you, man.
Yeah, man. I think the listeners are going to get a ton of value here. And by the way, if you are listening and you are a dude, because 10,000 is currently making clothes for men only, you must go over to 10,000. That's TENTHOUSAND.cc and see what they got, because they also just launched a really sick fight collection. So a really cool rash guard and a pair of shorts in a number of different colorways that were built specifically for MMA, both Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. And I did a bunch of wear testing for it, and they came out so good.
Thanks, man.
Congrats on that.
Thank you for that. We couldn't have done it without you. So
Awesome, brother.
Awesome,
All
man.
right, man. Have a great
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.
You
Thanks,
too.
Holmes.
Thanks, dude. Talk to you later.
Bye.